Hello everyone, and welcome to my review of the second episode of the Pokémon Journeys dubbed anime. Before we begin today, I'd like to go back through and correct a few of the things real quickly that I said in the previous episode review. Firstly, according to you guys in the comments, Pokémon Journeys isn't actually a reboot, and it just really feels that way only in the first episode apparently. I didn't really want any spoilers for future episodes, but according to comments I saw, stuff definitely happens in future episodes that confirms that Pokémon Journeys isn't a reboot, basically. I was wrong. Another much smaller mistake I made is that in the first episode, I referred to the baby Chansey eggs, well, the babies growing in the eggs, as Cleffers instead of Happinis, because I'm an idiot, I guess, and don't know Pokemon. And to be fair, I was recording the episode really early in the morning, so I hope you guys can forgive me just a little bit. Anyway, let's get on with the actual review of episode 2, shall we? Roll the new intro. The episode starts with Ash oversleeping for the second episode in a row now, and there's some really funky upbeat music playing in the background that just makes me want to dance. You guys don't want to see that though, trust me. There's also some pretty neat callbacks to the original first episode of Pokemon, with Ash smashing his Pidgecock against the wall again, which made me chuckle quite a bit. With the passing of Ash's poor old alarm clock, Pikachu takes it upon himself to take over the job of waking Ash up with physical assault. Which also fails, by the way. His mum then comes in and also assaults him. 1 minute in and I'm already getting ready to phone Childline. Jokes aside, she's not actually slapping him, but the sound effect for Ash's snot bubble popping is a really violent slapping sound effect, and I didn't even notice the snot bubble popping in my first watch through, so I actually thought his mom had actually just come in and whooped his ass. I was shocked to say the least, but relieved to find out I was wrong afterwards. You're off the hook, Delia. For now, anyway. Ash finally gets up and bolts out the house, where the narrator then introduces us to him again, as if he wasn't just in the last episode. Although I guess we are now seeing Ash in present day, after he's beaten the Alola League and all of that, unlike the last episode, which took place on his first day as a Pokemon trainer. Ash meets up with Professor Oak, who invites him to the grand opening of a brand new research lab in Vermilion City, to which he obviously agrees to go to. His mom also invites herself along on the trip, which Oak seems a little too happy about. These two have always been a little too buddy-buddy, haven't they? They set off in Oak's very nice retro-looking car, and they drive through the Kanto countryside, where there's a lot of really pretty animation of all the wild Pokemon. Then this weird interaction happens.
Tell me, Ash, a Pokemon Master, is that still your goal?
There's no doubt about it! But now, I'm gonna become a Pokemon Master with my buddy by my side! Pikachu!
But now you're going to become a Pokemon Master with Pikachu by your side? Is that not what you've been doing for the past 22 seasons, Ash? Since this is confirmed not a reboot after all? Is it just me, or does this wording make it sound like he at some point tried to become a Pokemon Master without Pikachu, or that he had plans of getting rid of Pikachu? I mean, he obviously didn't do either of these things, but this line is worded so weirdly. I even checked the Japanese version, and this line is worded completely different there. In the Japanese version, he just mentions that he's going to become a Pokemon Master with Pikachu by his side, instead of saying that he's now going to do that. Am I looking too much into this? Guys, let me know in the comments if I'm right about this sounding really weird, or if I'm just being stupid. They arrive at the lab, where Ash is stopped by one of the greatest Pokemon to come out of the 8th generation, Yamper. Ash shows Yamper some very much unwanted love, causing Ash to get blasted by electricity for the second time today already. Yamper does seem to get along with Pikachu though. And Yamper just so happens to belong to Chloe, who arrives home to find that her loving companion Yamper has murdered a man. Ash is dead. Jokes aside, the way she just scuttles past Ash like this actually made me laugh out loud on first watch. You can tell she just wants nothing to do with what's going on here, and it's amazing. Oak also shows absolutely no sympathy towards Ash, telling him to get a move on or the opening ceremony is going to start without him. Ash doesn't really seem to mind all this though. The opening ceremony begins, introducing us to Professor Cerise, who in the dub is voiced by Ray Chase, known for voicing characters such as Bruno in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Gendo in the Netflix dub of Neon Genesis Evangelion. While Professor Cerise is giving his speech at the opening ceremony about how his new laboratory aims to research Pokemon in all regions to uncover mysteries and such, Chloe is sitting upstairs alone waiting for Goh, who promised her that he'd visit the laboratory today to collect his homework from her. She then gets a text from Goh that reads, "I'm going to be late because I'm about to have a fateful encounter." I don't know who on earth speaks like this, or why Chloe doesn't ask him to elaborate on just what the hell that means, but oh well, I guess. The fateful encounter that Goh is talking about is actually with Lugia, who he is waiting on the rooftops for, as he feels that the cloud formations are just right for Lugia to appear. Now, personally, I thought you needed to play Lugia's song to get Lugia to appear, but one, I haven't seen Pokemon 2000 in years, so don't quote me on that. And two, let's be real here, this series changes its mind on what is and isn't canon every other microsecond. Professor Cerise makes the same prediction of Lugia appearing during his opening ceremony speech, causing Ash, as well as literally everyone else in the crowd, to rush out and leave. Unlucky there, Cerise. I don't really know what he expected though. You tell dozens of people that there's a once-in-a-lifetime sight on the opposite side of town, and they ain't going to be sticking around to listen to the rest of what you have to say. We cut back to Goh again, with this pretty hilarious scene where at the specific time he predicts that Lugia is going to show up, it doesn't, and instead Psyduck of all Pokemon appears. And then Psyduck just heads out immediately like, yeah, cool, I showed up, I said my line, I'ma collect my paycheck now, bye. Luckily this was just a fake out though, and Lugia does start appearing right after this, and I have to say, these clouds look really fluidly animated, and it's nice to see that they appear to be actually hand drawn and not CGI like I know a lot of other animes might use for a scene like this. Lugia then breaks out from upon these clouds, and we see that not only are Ash and Goh looking to catch him, but some pretty interestingly designed trainers are as well. On a real though, these three actually have such cool designs considering they're only one-off background characters made for this specific scene. I mean, I'd say these three look more interesting than a lot of the reoccurring characters in the previous Pokemon animes. For example, this is Trip. He is Ash's main rival throughout the entire Pokemon Black and White anime series. He's literally just a blonde kid with not a whole lot about him standing out in terms of design. These three, however, all look really unique and have so much charm to them in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure we'll never see them again after this. My main point here is basically the character designs and just overall expressiveness in this series is just outstanding, and I know I mentioned this in the last video, but I'm just so happy that they seem to be trying to combine the art styles of both the Sun and Moon anime with the XY anime's art style, as those two are the two that look the best in terms of art in my opinion. Before I get too carried away talking about the art though, I'm going to get back to the plot of the episode. All the trainers are sending out attacks on Lugia, who does not seem to give a single crap and takes them all on like it's nothing. He then decides to land, which is where Ash ends up meeting him and challenges him to a battle. I wonder if either of them remembers that they've literally met before. Ash gets Pikachu to use the only move he seems to remember Pikachu has, Thunderbolt, and Lugia predictably isn't affected by it in the slightest and flies away. Ash and Goh are giving chase separately at this point before they both decide to literally dive onto Lugia's body, causing the two to cross paths and meet one another. They both make it up onto the back of Lugia, and Goh starts analysing stuff like the feel of Lugia's skin, how its back fins move, stuff like that, while on the other hand, Ash is just having fun and enjoying the ride. It's a really nice and simple way of showing us just how these two characters contrast from one another, and I have to commend the writers for doing this while keeping it simple enough for viewers of all ages to recognise. Lugia then decides to literally fly 90 degrees towards the ocean, causing Ash and Goh to literally fear for their lives before sending a hyper beam into the ocean to part it, giving Ash and Goh this really prettily animated view inside. Then they actually travel into the ocean, giving us a look at some of the Pokemon's sea life. Goh's phone must have some pretty amazing waterproofing if he's still able to use it down here. Once they finally get out of the ocean and are actually able to, breathe again, the two introduce themselves to one another in this pretty endearing scene where Ash spouts his usual goofy dialogue about how he loves meeting new Pokemon, and Goh tells him that he finds him to be pretty funny and that he quote-unquote accepts Ash as his friend. The interactions between these two in this scene are really well written, and I really like how these two play off of one another. From here we get a little bit more sightseeing with Lugia before he decides to dump Ash and Goh off of his back and into some random field, leaving Ash and Goh to discuss their feelings towards Pokemon to one another. Goh kinda reminded me of Armin from Attack on Titan in this scene, with all his dialogue about there being a massive world out there and wanting to explore it. That and Goh and Armin are both very intelligent characters who have somewhat similar voices. The two then realise that they have no idea where they are and don't end up making it back to the Cerise laboratory until sunset, where they are then greeted by Yamper, who once again has an adorable interaction with Pikachu before Chloe comes out and scolds Goh for being late and hands him his homework. They head inside and Goh shows the footage he got of Lugia to Professor Cerise, who is in awe of some of the shots that Goh managed to take. Professor Oak then asks Ash how his experience meeting Lugia was, and Ash tells Oak that he feels like him and Lugia became friends, which everyone else in the room doubts. So Ash then explains that he knew that him and Lugia became friends because when his eyes met with Lugia's, he got chills. When in reality, Ash probably should have just instead explained to them the plot of the second movie, in which he spent a large amount of time with Lugia. That would have been a bit more convincing in my opinion. Amazed with the information they gathered for him regarding Lugia, Professor Cerise asks Goh and Ash to become researchers at his laboratory, and they both agree before arguing over which one of them will be the most useful. They're even offered a room to stay in at the lab and argue over which one of them gets the top bunk, causing Ash's mom to leave Mimey at the lab to take care of Ash. After the squabbling is gone and done with, the professor offers Goh one of the Kanto starter Pokemon, Charmander, Bulbasaur or Squirtle, to which Goh says that he chooses Mew. And the looks on everyone's faces here I just found so funny. Chloe just looks so done with Goh's shit at this point, and we're only 2 episodes in. But yeah, Goh chose to take none of the Kanto starters, to which Ash calls him weird for doing. Goh then exclaims that Ash is the weirder one, with Ash replying that that makes him the winner, causing the two to then argue about who's the weirdest. All this arguing sounds like it should have gotten old by now, but these two are just so funny together that so far I can't say it has. And that's where the episode ends off, with Ash and Goh getting ready to head out on their journey to gather research information for Professor Cerise, and of course to catch Mew. Overall, I'd say I enjoyed this episode a whole lot more than I did the first episode, and for sure I'd never thought I'd be laughing so much at a Pokemon episode. The characters of Ash, Goh and Chloe are just so well written in this episode, and I find all 3 of them to be just so charming and funny. Some of the animation in this episode, especially during the Lugia scenes, was just breathtaking and executed phenomenally, and I also just love the range of expressions that all the characters have. All of this is making me really excited to find out just what happens next time, and where the series goes from here, as I can already tell this is likely going to be one of my favourite Pokemon animes, if not my favourite. This episode gets an 8 out of 10 from me for just being a really fun episode that had me just smiling from beginning to end. I loved it. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more from me in the future, then be sure to like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. And let me know in the comments what your favourite part of this episode was. Thanks guys, see ya.